What's good, YouTube? And welcome to something that I didn't think needed addressing, but apparently does. Comments like these have been really bubbling up in the comment section lately, and I just want to say, whenever I say I'm not a financial advisor, that's because it's a legal disclaimer. I cannot give hand-tailored financial advice to over 10,000 different people with varying bankrolls. I don't know what cards are even in your trade binder, how many you're looking to pick up, and nor would I with how Konami can just change things tomorrow on cards. Like, I talked about the Gold Pride videos in the previous video where this comment is, and I said, well, I kind of like where the Starlight price is at right now, and with the support today, I'd probably pull my listing and see where it ended up going at this point. Things can change on a dime with Yu-Gi-Oh, and there's just too many variables to be able to do that specifically. Now, when I say I told you so, I also own when I'm wrong, such as in the previous video, or say I was right, but for the wrong reasons. When I highlighted the Purely cards, I said on initial drop, I would have gotten them, but I think they would go slowly up, and instead they've skyrocketed, gotten 7 buyouts, they've gotten new support, things have gone sideways thanks to Konami, and also the player base over going in on that cute tax, right? I'm not always right, and I highlight quite often when I'm not right, but I also like to own my wins at times. But again, this is mainly a legal disclaimer. I am not a financial advisor, and nor would I be. I like to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh cards, Yu-Gi-Oh card prices, where they're going. I'm not telling you to pick up infinite of things. I'm telling you sometimes I think I would pick this up sooner than later, and then I like to talk about reprint clocks and other variables, that sort of thing with Yu-Gi-Oh cards. That being said, let's go ahead and talk about Gold Pride and the Gold Pride support going around it, spiking up thanks to those reveals. The reveals seem pretty good. People are super hyped into it. Gold Pride Leon has skyrocketed. You also have the crowd goes wild, going wild, and Gold Pride Captain Carrie herself, the blue pirate lady that people did like the artwork on reveal a lot, is going up here too. Now, interestingly enough, the Starlight itself, where I said I liked the price yesterday, really hasn't gone up all that much. Most of these listings are where they were at. You do see like a couple sales going around, that sort of stuff, but not really skyrocketing or anything on the top end of the deck. It's more people just wanting access, buying in, seeing the support, and saying, yep, I think this deck is where it needs to be at. I think it's pretty good. I think it can top regionals, all that sort of stuff. And again, yesterday I talked about the variables, right? Like there's the accessories. Konami wants to make sure that this is going to be good, but also like, how good will they make it, right? And it seems like people are saying it's way better than we thought they would be with their wallets. Now, also, the Punk stuff has its reprint clock potentially ticking because the Grand Creators is listed in the Megatons for this year. It could be just the Adventure Token package, but I think the Punks will be included. That's still speculation at this point. But the Punk Foxy Tune is skyrocketing even further for the Ultra, and the Collector Rare is about where it has been. This has had a lot of rolling buyouts and chilling out, but you can see the graph for the most part says it's just been going up. But it's realistically chilled a little, gone back up, chilled a little, gone back up, and been rolling buyouts on the Collector Rare. So people will probably start to weigh their options as the Ultra really bubbles up today versus the Collector Rare because of that potential reprint, and highest rarity probably falling less if there's not a ban list involved versus you having the Megaton reprints potentially on the horizon. Also, Ogre Dance, pretty expensive for what it is, but I understand people want the engine. It's an ultra rare in there too. 3.6 of them per 12 box case on average. Not the easiest card in the world to have, right? Emergency Teleport also doing very well for the collector rare over time. I hadn't been watching this at all, and you can see it's just been improving, going up, and it's one that was pretty easy to call with, but it also has the ultimate rare hanging over it, yet the ultimate rare is in a league of its own for, you know, out of set ulties. I think the lowest first edition are 135, which is still under market price, as the collector rare mid-max is the one lots of people are willing to settle on that still looks pretty good, and the secret rare actually still hanging around the pretty high price for what it is. Super Heavy Samurai have had a ton of buyouts, but I didn't really peek at the Super Scarecrow because we had the common accessible, but people love hollowing out the decks, and this should have been an easy one to call, but one that I missed. So this one is just skyrocketing. Absolutely, people want to hollow out their decks, so be aware this is a $3 super rare versus a common that does the same thing that you can have, but you know, people love their shiny Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Herald of the Abyss is interesting because in history of Yu-Gi-Oh, this has been overhyped so many times to see basically no play, and people end up calling it a terrible card later. But you have Purely where, you know, you have the opponent and you have this card and then they end up affecting it, not your card. The complicated stuff that goes along with also Xyz Encore, which has been spiking. So as this spikes, people look for other cheaper alternatives at the time, and then they become not so cheap depending on the version. This is the highest rarity of the card. What do you think between these? Which would you be playing? Herald of the Abyss does have more applications against other matchups as well, but I feel like Xyz Encore is the one that people are more sure of, and also has an overhyped history, yet has appeared in actual metagames where it has had a huge impact in the past. So I feel like Xyz Encore has more reliability overall in Yu-Gi-Oh! Versus the Theorio of this having extra applications. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below between these two techs, especially versus the Purely matchup, and what you're going to be going with and why. Exo Sister Martha Starlight's really spiking up here. The secret rare is pretty darn affordable, still a little above market price at this point, but tons of them listed. I'm hearing that Exo Sisters are getting labbed and booked in different ways. I don't know. I feel like this deck has really proved itself in the past to go past expectations, and a lot of people do like it. I don't know, though, at this point in Yu-Gi-Oh! How it's going to be performing, or if it could just surprise us all. So, yeah, that's the point. Like, I'm not an Exo Sister expert. I have never played with this deck. I've only played against it, and I do want to hear your thoughts on where you feel this deck is going with future cards slash the metagame. Gazelle, the king of mythical beasts. I remember Yugi saying that so many times. It got new support, so be aware that the ultra rare out of Yugi's world has really spiked up here. I don't really buy too much into this. Like, I love the Yugi cards. I love pulling stuff like this out into the side for myself, but all of the sudden scrambling for it because of the new support, I'm not sure that it's going to go anywhere too crazy. But you do get those futures where, you know, the new support's almost here. Okay, hype it up again. Oh, it's actually gonna be here, and you can see those rolling graphs at times. Let me know what you think about this one from Yugi's world. I'm just not the biggest fan of a buyout like this in particular. And finally, I don't know why this is going up the way it's going up. I do not have the insight to that, so let me know in the comment section down below, other than it doesn't have a reprint and it says it can take out half of somebody's life points, which can be 4,000 damage the first time that happens, right? The Time Lords are interesting cards, but this in particular spiking the way that it is spiking crazily, I don't know if there's the actual application for that. And I actually did want to touch on one more thing that I don't have pulled up. Live editing done cheap by John Moore. Dark World's got a new card that does seem to fix a lot of things with them. It basically adds a card from deck and then lets you discard, so that's pretty crazy, and the archetype is a 1-for-1 in Dark Worlds in general. And there are some crazy prices I'm seeing that aren't actually all that past. Like, I think the purple name Grapha looks good on Grapha. I don't think it should be worth that. And you can see the other Duelist League versions are way under. But if there are Dark World spikes today, which it does seem there are a lot of low quantities or higher prices going, be aware that Dark Worlds did get really, really insane support versus everything else that is happening in a card called Corridor, which you can look up on Yu-Gi-Oh! Organization. Thanks for watching today's Market Watch. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed the conversation. And I do think a lot of people knew it's more of a legal disclaimer than a beating my chest saying, oh, I'm right here, but oh, not like this. It's just impossible to be able to do that for an audience. And again, it's not a position I would be putting myself in with financial advice. It's more talking about cards, where they're going, and I'm right all the time. I'm also wrong quite often. I just happen to be right more often than wrong, which is good EV depending where you're going. But again, like, Konami can change things in a moment like that, and you gotta be active with it too.